Strap yourself in, because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts. Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
And now, here's your host.
Right, Chris. Right, Chunkies, good evening. How the devil are we all? Starting a little bit early, about a couple of minutes, bear with me. It's a packed night tonight. I've got a date at 10 o'clock. Yeah, it's with you guys. I'm doing the Arsenal preview at 10. Nothing exciting, don't worry. But it's still back.
The Premier League is back, and we've got it all covered here on Leicester Till I Die TV. Subscribe.
Please do, and please remember to do this as well.
Leicester Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
We have got, well, we're everywhere. As you can see above me, we're all over there, all over the podcasts. If you go to Linktree, the link to Linktree, as it happens, is in the description below, and that will take you, or give you a link to every single one of our podcasts and platforms and Twitter, Facebook, all that. It just saves you doing it all individually. So welcome along. This is something a little bit different. I'm trying tonight. Now it may be that I get my channel shut down. Who knows? Fingers crossed I don't. But you never know. If I get shut down, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down. That was going to sound so wrong. I said I was going to go down with this guy, and I didn't mean it like that. I will go down fighting with this guy. Brad, hello, sir. How are you?
Well, and that was the moment the channel shut down, was it? I'm all right, mate. How are you?
I'm not so bad. I stopped myself before before I think I said too much and I could clip it and it'd be used against me. Got some bad news. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yuri Tillemans. He will be at the Emirates this Saturday.
Yeah, no, 100% guaranteed. It's a wet dream for Arsenal fans. I nightmare when a team's done their last year.
Exactly. I mean, I'd love it. I'd love it, as Kevin would say. I'd love him to get a hat trick.
Oh, it wouldn't just be the icing on the cake as well. Just bangs in 3 past them and then just that'd be good.
That would be good. That would be good. David's in. Hello, sir. How are you? Yeah, apparently we've signed Alex Smithies as third choice goalkeeper. I saw it somewhere else. I think he was at Cardiff and Huddersfield.
Yeah, great. We've got a younger Jakovic to be on number 3. So, just honest.
I'm going to have to ask you, can you move closer to the mic, Brad? I am struggling to hear you. Sorry, mate.
Yeah,
I don't know if your chair. That is better. Yeah, that's a lot better. Thank you. He is only supposed to be the third choice, but I guess he's got a bit more experience than Everson if anything happens to Ward.
Yeah, and it allows us to send Everson out on loan, which I think is correct in the way Leicester do things. In the sale of Schmeichel, you promote the upper number, so Everson can go out on loan. Smithies can be, in case of emergency, break the hair sort of goalkeeper. And yeah, if nothing else, our club have been honest with what they're going to do. They said if they're going to go out, it's going to be a number 3 keeper, and they've gone out, they've got a number 3 keeper. We still haven't spent any money, apart from his
No, apart from his wages, you say, and they'll be on a lot less than Casper will be, in fairness. So yeah, I mean, he likes 3 goalkeepers. Like I say, we've not. It does take up another place. That's the only worry with me, because the other problem, of course, was the fact that we had too many players for the 25-man squad we were allowed. Now we've got that down to 2 with Hamza going as well, but. I mean, now obviously we're back to over 1, so I don't know exactly how much it's going to happen. But that said, it's not on the LCFC website yet, so it may not be happening. We will see what goes there. But hello, David, and welcome to the show. Hayden's in. Good evening, Hayden. How are you? And Terry's in as well. Good evening, Terry. Thank you for joining us. So tonight, if you haven't, I don't know if you've seen this at all, Brad. I did go through it on the Back Pages show from Monday night, I think it was, or Tuesday night, one of them. Tuesday night it would have been. I think I did a Back Pages show. There is an absolutely amazing article on Sky Sports. It's written by Rob Dorset, who is obviously the Midland correspondent for Sky, and it's an in-depth look at what is happening at Leicester City and as to why we are not making any signings now. And I read that, and he knows his stuff. He's senior reporter at Sky. It is a great, great read. It really is. If you haven't checked it out, Sky Sports, go and check that out, guys, if you're watching and you haven't seen it. It does explain an awful lot. Hayden's good. Keith is in. Good evening, Keith. How are you? Welcome along. Not sure if I've seen you before, so you are doubly welcome, sir. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe to the channel. Brad's details are also available in the channel, in the description below on YouTube. Make sure to check out his channel as well. So we're going to be looking at the press conference, which Brendan had earlier today. Now, like I say, I don't know how this is going to work out. I may get a strike and I may get taken off air, but hey, if we're gonna do it, let's do it big style, eh, Brad?
Yeah, let's, mate. Let's.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to play the press conference. It's only 13 minutes, but we'll be stopping it now and again and chatting about what he says. But let's have a look, because I have got a first point to make quite quickly.
But there wasn't a squad number for Callum Wright, George Hurst, Lewis Brunt, Dana Watson, Chittawan, and Josh Apaya.
Hang on. There we go. It's gone wrong already. Let's take it back to the beginning.
No, nothing new. So everyone okay to be in the squad?
I think the heat wave will continue, tipped to be sort of mid-30s by kick-off time on Saturday at the Emirates. How do you expect that to impact on the game, if any?
Well, it does. Obviously, the heat will always have a bearing on the intensity of the game, and of course the importance of looking after the ball is very important as well. So yeah, we've obviously been training in it. So the players have worked so well this week in having a real intensity in the training. But of course, over the course of 90 minutes, it does have an impact. But like I said, you got to deal with these situations when they arise.
On individual players.
Now, I want to pick up on that, Brad. Did you hear that okay?
Yeah, I heard that fine, mate.
I mean, he's saying there about the heat, and he was blaming exhaustion after the Brentford game. He's got 5 substitutes, for fuck's sake. He used 1. And it is hard to hear sometimes the question, but, asking, are we prepared for the heat? It was obviously what the guy was the journalist was getting at. Do you think he's learned his lesson? We know how stubborn he can be.
Well, it's probably less a question of whether he's learned his lesson. I think you kind of get the answer yourself there by saying it just depends how long his stubbornness will stand before he trusts the rest of the squad of to step in. I think for what he did and what he chose and how he chose to change Leicester's shape in that second half against Brentford, he did the right thing in terms of trying to keep his better players on for that 10, 15 minute switch over. But when he brought Daka on, there should have been 2 people with him. So hopefully he's learned, and hopefully, the aforementioned heat coming into this week's game is going to make him think out.
But should he, in all honesty, should we be talking about the 7th best manager, paid manager in the Premier League, somebody with his experience having to learn? Surely he should have seen that, should have seen what Brentford were doing, how bloody hot it is, and he shouldn't need to be told that, should he?
No, he shouldn't. But the hardest thing to happen to a manager is just when you're committed to making a change or making a tactical decision, is something happens in the game. It could be good, and it could be a goal for your team, and that could delay what you do, and that could tell you, all right, I can actually scrap that idea. We're 2-0 up, with 20 to go, we're 3-1 up, or whatever. We'll do this instead then. But when it catches you off guard and you're thinking, right, we're just about to get to this mark and I'm going to change it to this and it's not going to change the shape, and all of a sudden Brentford score, it gives you that panic where you've got to then go and rethink for a couple of minutes. You've got to tell. We've seen it time and time again, haven't we, where a goal at either end has suddenly dramatically changed. You know, the player we've been seeing warming up for 10 minutes is now sat on the bench and someone else is out warming up because he wants to shut out the game or he needs to go for it. And you know, these impact moments are called impact moments for that reason. They change the way you make a decision, and it's easy to say, "Oh well, he had 4 other subs he could have used." Again, Brentford on the attack, his head was like, "Well, I could put maybe Vestergaard on or whoever was on the bench on, but they've got to settle. We're in the closing numbers of games. I still need my experienced head out there. These." You know, I wasn't set for it, and he should probably be set for it. But you're asking a manager to prepare for every situation. It's not always as easy as we make it out sound.
We're all managers, aren't we? At the end of the day, we're all sitting there. It's just like playing FIFA, let's face it. Scott, I'm not sure. I've not seen this rumour. I could not stand having Benitez in charge. I mean, I don't know. We are one game in. And yes, we are going to criticise what he's saying. We're going to pull it to bits. That's what we're here for. But I don't think there's any chance of him going yet. I really, really don't. It's just somebody somewhere has got a page to fill on a newspaper or a web page, and he thinks, right, you know, who's everybody moaning about? Oh, Brendan Rodgers. You know, it's not Brendan Rodgers' fault that he's not spending money. You know, you can't blame him for not bringing people in, can you, Brad?
No, you can't. At the end of the day, like that article by Rob Dawson clearly explains, there's a reason why. And I've touched upon this idea of how people were over-reading reports. And not often when I'm right, but when I'm right, it turns out to be a case. And this is pretty much exactly what I said after the post-match about it, after the Brentford game. And that is, the club aren't willing to put themselves at risk of going into debt to support that thing. We want infrastructure and build that way so that, you know, if Leicester can continue this push in the league of what they're doing, they're going to do it. And again, I've used this term so many times when we discuss transfers, when we discuss rumours, when we discuss signings, when we discuss silly tales like this. It's lazy journalism. You know, I've just done a show about theories of a fictional variety. Well, some of the stories that come up with are all theorised out of thin air. It's like, well, what if there's a problem with Brendan and that's why I'm not spending money? Well, we'll post that as an article anyway. And we'll say that's the reason, because he's fallen out with Chowdhury before over COVID. So now they're loaning him out, it's got to be a problem. Brendan's going to be out the door.
And the other thing as well is that, you know, if you've got, I'm not having a go at the Mercury here, but every newspaper now, I worked in the newspaper industry for over 20 years. How it used to be 20 years ago and how it is now are two different industries altogether. And you would never 20 years have got the Leicester Mercury taking a story probably off something like News Now and making it a headline, you know, piece in Leicestershire Life. So yeah, read guys. I've put a link up on the thing there. That is the story I was talking about. I went through it on the news show the other night, and it is the only sensible piece of journalism about Leicester City I have seen since the transfer window opened. the only sensible thing. How are people still linking us with players when we haven't, we're not buying, but we're still being linked? So that kind of sums it up. But do check that link out, guys. It is well worth the read. Right, let's go on and see what Brendan else had to
Chelsea
say.
interest in Wesley Fofana doesn't seem to be going away. I'm just wondering, what have you said to him about that, and how's he responding about kind of just having that focus on Leicester at the moment?
Well, I think the message to all the squad is that, because it's not just the players that the speculation around it, it can affect the whole group if you don't manage it. So the message is very much just keep your eyes on the ball, keep your focus on your football. It's notoriously a time of the year when we know there's lots of speculation and gossip around. But it's something that I haven't seen so much in the group. The squad have very much trained at a really, really good level. The intensity been really good, and everyone focused on doing the best in the games for Leicester City. So it hasn't been too difficult for Wesley himself. He's a young guy. He's a very talented player. I communicate openly with him, and he knows our thoughts on him and the clubs.
What's your gut feeling as of today? Do you think he will still be with you beyond the deadline?
I don't think about it.
And regarding incomings, I know you'd spoken in the past about...
Apparently, we've not had a third offer from Chelsea.
No, and they can bugger off, because he signed a 5-year deal. Well, he signed an extension. That's correct. He signed an extension which takes his current contract now to 5 years. He signed that in March. So it's even greater stronghold for our club in regards to the power we hold in that situation, because we, as our club has stated several thousand times, and we'll have to probably state it 7,000 times more, we're not selling. We don't need to sell in terms of to stay afloat, but if we want to upgrade an acquisition or a place in our squad that's become available for whatever reason, then we have the asset to do so, and we have a valuation. If you wanted to take one of our key players, we have a valuation for that player.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that this club gets referred to, that it gives off a very good family feel to it, is because, like you imagine, say, how a family is, they support you in your aspirations. So Wesley Fofana, to every note, is happy at the club. They don't really like discussing it in the club, from what Brendan's saying there. I think Chelsea are hopefully going to start looking elsewhere, because we've told them no at what they thought would be our tipping point. He's got 5 years. We don't need to sell him. And he seems to be the sort of professional that if he gets to September and the window's closed, he's going to play no different to the way he started the game against Brentford. So I'm happy with the response. He's not barking up to it, but he's shut it down in a very good way. And I like that. I like the way he's done.
Yes, we know that any player has their price. We know that.
Yeah.
But as I say,
sorry, should I go on first?
No, I was going to say and then I'll let you just say, is just please read that thing. I know I keep coming back to it a lot, but that Sky piece answers a lot of questions. It says no. It says, no, we are not broke. Yes, we have money. But why spend money like Barcelona on a club, on players that we cannot register because we've already got 27, players registered, and you can only put 25 forward. So why buy? Do we want to become a Barcelona where we are buying players the second week of La Liga this week and they're not even registered to play yet? So they're getting paid to sit on the backsides. Also, it's, do we want to become a Leeds? Do we want to gamble in getting Europe next season, and then we don't, and then we just slowly getting into more and more and more debt? We saw what happened to Leeds. I don't want us to be a Leeds. I don't want us to be a Barcelona. And if that means we sit mid-table for a couple of seasons while the owners are extending the ground, and we're still only half the size of Old Trafford. So
yeah, but
we've got to think of things like that.
Leicester have to learn from other teams' past mistakes, and the very key word you used there, Chris, was the word gamble. And the owners don't see this football club as a gamble; they see it as a means to succeed, and they've managed that over the years since they've been in charge of the club, and they continue to do it. And it is a strategy that, like any business idea, comes with its own risks. It did have a little bit of comparison to how Tottenham are doing it, improving the infrastructure without necessarily for them 4 or 5 years or however long the period was of the transition period before they built a squad that now most teams are starting to look at in at least a strong competition for that top 3 bracket. Conte's building a side, they're quality players. And you know what? If Leicester take another 15, 20 years to get up to that standard, but they do it level by level, they do it on that even OCD platform when they do it in stages combined, then I'm happy for it to go on this way. I'm happy for us to tell Brendan and future managers and whatnot that this is how we're doing the club business. This is how it's run. And you look at Everton last season, nearly went down spending over £500 million on absolute cost. It doesn't always work out. So I'm happy with the way Leicester choose to do their business.
And we look at Man United. I mean, they were bought for $600 million by the Glaziers. Do you know how much of that has been paid off?
I could not
absolutely nothing. Because the Glaziers are taking money out of that club. Any sales or any people that they buy, the money that they are spending is generated by the club. The Glazers are not putting 1 penny into that club other than the fact that they've saddled them with all that debt. We don't want to go that way. So we are expanding the club, the stadium, but we're still only going to be, like I say, half the size of Man United. So we can't compete with Man United and Newcastle as things are at the moment. They've got this huge plans for all the area around the club to make it more attractive, to bring people in. It has got to be. We've been very lucky. And in a way, we almost ran before we could walk. Because, when Top came in and said, "Oh, I'll have us in Europe in..." when Vichai came in and said, "We'll have us in Europe in 5 years." we all went, "Yeah, okay, right." And it virtually almost did. But, winning it the way we did, it literally is. I think we sort of progressed too quickly, but we've not got to go mad. Like I said, if it means a couple of seasons where we're mid-table, maybe 8th, 9th, 10th, maybe sneaking into Europe, I'm happy. As long as I've still got a club to support at the end of it, Keith says here, this squad is more than talented enough for top 6 without additions. Technically, it is. Pratt's come back. That's like a new signing because he now wants to stay. Once we'd got all the players back at the back end of last year, we looked a lot better team. Yeah, we should have held on to the 2-0, but we didn't. But we didn't lose. We didn't do a Nottingham Forest. Liverpool let it slip. They got 2-2. Are they talking about replacing Klopp? I don't think so. But Terry does make the point, pity the club didn't spell it out rather than leaving it to a journo. I agree. Maybe they should have just come out, Susan Whelan or someone, and said, "Look, guys, this is where it is." Because it's the hope that kills us, as we always say.
Yeah, but I think the club have a responsibility to remember they're a business and a football club first. And although the fans, Leicester as a club, genuinely, this is not a biased opinion. A lot of neutrals have said this. Leicester is a very well-run club in being honest and open with its fans. But sometimes you've got to see what you can do, because there was no reason to say that Chelsea didn't muck around and wait until the last couple of weeks of the transfer window to start building the way up. They could have came in. Someone could have came in and offered us 30 million for Tillman. Someone could have came in and offered us 87, 88, 90 or whatever million, or at least started at around the 60 million mark for Farner. Newcastle could have come in with 50 million, 60, 70 million for Maddison and negotiated that. And they could have said that we want out, and then Leicester would have had to say there's valuation, they meet it, go. But that's not been the case. So, again, happy why the club's run, and I'm we also don't want a Schmeeta Schmailer, do we, by having Dennis Wise at a club? So that's one thing.
We definitely don't. Right, let's see what else he had to say.
It's going to be a difficult window. Is that still the case, or could a big sale open up possibilities for you?
No, it's going to be one where the club will need to move on, look to try and move on some players, and then see what that releases. There's no guarantees for us at this stage, but yeah, once anything happens, then of course then the club will let me know. But in the meantime, my focus is purely with the players that's here really, and if something happens later down the line, then we'll address it then.
What comparisons can be made to Arsenal from last season and what they've done maybe in pre-season and last week in their first game against Crystal Palace?
For me, Arsenal have gone to a new level. The three boys that have come into the team. Saliba was a very gifted young player that played alongside Wesley at St Etienne, but of course needed some game experience. Difficult when Arsenal signed him to play him because he was so young, but he went away and played for 2 or 3 years. Has got really good experience, and you see now him coming back at 21. He's 6'4". He's quick. He can dominate in the ball. So he's a fantastic addition for them and gives them that presence at the back. The two other guys coming in from Manchester City have made a huge difference. There's absolutely no question. They're coming from an elite, world-class, winning environment. You see the mentality, and Gabriel Jesus, he's a world-class striker, and you just see how he goes about his work, his focus, his hunger, his desire, and his quality.
I've had it with Arsenal fans. They've come along and said, "Oh, we're not made any signings." They've made some very, very good signings. And when you're talking about sort of Leicester, look at where Arsenal were last season. By being sensible, then they've been able to now go out and make the purchases that they want to.
Yeah, maybe this is a sign that you should be patient with a manager, and if you're going to hire a manager, you've got to back and believe their ideas. Yeah, of course, if it goes disastrously wrong and quickly, and it's looking like the trap door more than a European tour, by all means make that decision. But if you stand by a manager who's bringing you relative success, because everybody talks about Moyes and this and that being given the tarnished name from the Fergie era and it being a poison chalice, but it seems to be, despite fans of somewhat majority wanting Wenger retiring way before he did, it seems that Arsenal are trying not to suffer from the same effects. And look, they're quality signings that Arsenal have made, and yeah, they've had to be frustrated and patient, but patience is a virtue. And you know what? If in 2-3 seasons' time Leicester are able to go out and lure in a transfer of that quality of a known talent, because I know we've got quality players and we've unearthed them, but I'm talking having the pleasure of going out and buying someone like a Gabriel Heaps who's right up front, going out and buying these players competing in the market. If it takes that to get here, I'm more than happy to see it, because again, like you said, Chris, I'm seeing the football club play week in, week out.
Big Crumb here says, I am fine with not spending any money. We need a new manager. Rodgers out. All you have to look at is the Emperor's new clothes attitude. All last year, it became a running joke. I mean, we're going to go over this time and time again. So I'm going to sort of, for me, put this to bed now. I was beginning to question Brendan. And Brad, I'm very much a Brendan in person.
Yes.
And this is why, in a way, we've put I put the post-match show back a couple of hours so that we are sort of coming to it, having had a chance to have a whiskey, brandy, gin, whatever you want, and calm down. And then we look at it rather than going in all guns blazing straight after the final whistle. It's too early after one game to be saying, right, it's time for him to go. I mean, okay, you can go back to the Peter Taylor in his second season, he carried on from the season before. But last season we finished, and I can't say this enough, we finished 8th, and we finished we had a semi-final European game against a team that was in the Champions League not so long ago, who've got probably one of the best managers in the world, and we got to the semi-finals, and we went out by the odd goal. Now, and I say we finished 8th. You cannot tell me that was a bad season, because it isn't. Everton would have loved to have been us. There was 14 other clubs in that league that would have loved to have been us. And the fact that we've got 5th for 2 seasons running does not mean that we're entitled to be there. West Ham last season, they only got beat us by 1 place, but they had the same problems as us, injuries. 30 plus injuries during the season, 9 plus defenders. No manager. If Salah broke his fingernail, Klopp would be whining on about it and saying he needs a new striker. We had all those injuries. Brendan did what he could with the squad, and I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I'm talking through hindsight, but with what he had to deal with, he did not do a bad job. And if you'd have given me 8th and a European semi-final place at the start of the season, I would have probably accepted it.
Yeah, it's a fair enough assessment. I do understand why people are saying Brendan out in the terms that they're obviously not just judging it off one game. You'd be utterly ridiculous if you were just judging it off one game. I think it's the fact that there's notable patterns that have occurred with Brendan at the helm. You have to admit, Chris, I was sat there watching it, and as soon as I realised where Daka was going and what was happening to Leicester formation, I went from watching the game like this to, oh no, first score, this is going to cause trouble. Then it did, and you can't also bemoan people for wanting him out because of that reason. I'm still a firm supporter of him, and I think he's got a chance to really go right. We debate the fact that he's never had this long had a job in management, whether that's through choice or not. Most of the time it hasn't been. But again, on paper, Leicester had a meh season. They finished 8th, they got to a semi-final. That's on paper, and that's credit, in a way, to where Leicester have come since returning to the Premier League and all they have achieved. Not just the semi-final, not just the 5th place finishes, but the FA Cup, the English Super Cup, or, the Charity Shield, as most people Community Shield, sorry, as people call it, the Premier League title win. I know that wasn't under Rodgers, but you go after that, that's a success that has befallen Leicester. And I think sometimes, like you say, maybe sometimes we're a little bit ahead of ourselves in terms of what we should actually be expecting. Because, yes, on paper and looking at recent history, Leicester finishing 8th is meh. But if you look at everything that actually happened throughout that season, 8th was a really good, solid finish. That had we managed to get together about 3 or 4 weeks beforehand, that run where we couldn't beat anybody, the Villas and the Everton games, which were a mare to talk about, were probably the all that separated us from taking West Ham's spot, weren't they?
Yeah. And Big Crom says here, Rodgers is burning his players out in training, thus all the injuries. I would have thought that, and I questioned that a lot at the start of the season. But then when you speak to people that know more than us, Rob Tanner works for The Athletic, knows his stuff. He knows people at the state, he's followed the club often enough. As he pointed out, there is when a player gets injured, there is a red period, a red danger zone, when he's not really fit enough to play, but he's not totally injured. And now that red danger zone usually comes after the injury. Soyuncu, for example, was playing in that red zone because we had got nobody else to play there. So Rodgers was having to play a lot of players when he shouldn't have been because we had nobody else. Now, I didn't think of it like that. I didn't understand that. But when it's explained to you, God, yes, it makes sense. James Justin came back and got injured straight away because he came back too early. So, it's hindsight. Like I say, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and speaking to people and explaining things is a wonderful thing. But that, for me, did sort of explain things a little bit more. But let's see where Brendan goes next.
When you have someone like that in the building, that really can elevate other players to a different level. And Zinchenko is a player that can play at a couple of positions to the very highest level. You see him at fullback when he moves inside, and you see him play for Ukraine when he plays as a centre midfield player. So I think those players have really given the squad the confidence, and has given Mikel the tools to play probably how he really wants to play. And they've had a good pre-season, and obviously started well against Crystal Palace.
Thanks, Brendan.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Very, very quickly on Arsenal. I predicted a draw because I can't go against my club, but I'm surprised that Man City have sold some players to one of the biggest rivals. But like I say, Arsenal, I would have loved those signings, and I think they're going to be maybe possibly a surprise package this season.
It could be. Time will tell. But people also started wetting the knickers over everybody that Man United were signing. Look at that start for them.
Yeah, look who they're after now. Because they can't spend big money.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they're a decent side. And all joking aside, look at where they've been finishing, minus that season when they finished 8th. They've been doing pretty well in terms of where they're finishing. And again, this is the blueprint for how it can get turned around, and we can have seasons better than Arsenal in the midst of that process.
Yeah.
And a title's still a way off, but definitely having a resurgence back to that top form. They got rid of the dead.
Yeah, they took them a couple of seasons to do that, indeed. Scott says, Chris, when you say Brendan had no players to be able to play, whether it was injuries or COVID, I'm guessing Rob was referring to squad players as opposed to development players. If we had the development players, we can't play them in the Premier League. We've got a 25-man squad that we have to register, and we have to stick to those 25. And that's why when we played Watford in January, you saw the youngsters to come through, because that was an FA game. And you don't have to register players for that. But for the Premier League, we could not use development players because we've only allowed those 25 players that we have got registered. So it doesn't matter if we've got 500 development players available. We cannot use one of them. We've got to stick to the 25. And that's why the players were being rushed back. Every year for the last few years around Christmas, Vardy's groin area flares up. He's not regulating his min due to his age. I think we're going to see that a little bit more. I mean, obviously he'll be in discussions with Vardy as to how he feels about it. But I think we will see Vardy coming off after 70 minutes possibly, and Daka or Inacho, probably Daka coming on to replace him. Let's see what he talked about next.
Okay, Rob, PLP.
Hi, Brendan.
Hi, Rob.
A few days on from the Brentford game, there was a lot that you said you liked. Obviously, half an hour that you perhaps didn't. What have you learned a few days on?
I think they just looking after the details. That was important for us. We had total comfort in the game at 2-0, and then we just lose a little bit of organisation on a throw-in, and from that results in a goal, and then all of a sudden it gives a little bit of momentum to the other team. So certainly that was one item of the game. And other things that we can analyse of what we can be better in, but like I say, the attitude of the players was first class, and like I say, we wanted to win, we didn't, and things that we have learned we'll take into our next game.
You say you think Arsenal have gone to
Thoughts on that, Brad?
I mean, it's the first game of the season. He was always going to get asked, what did he think and take from the performance? I think we know that last half an hour was goes to Christmas past for Leicester fans, wasn't it, watching it? But he did state the improvements. You know, I did it on a tactical board on the post-match where I said Leicester had pushed that high press line. Still technically the old Leicester with the passing sideways and slow build-up, but they were doing it from a far higher point of view. And that exhaustion, it probably told as to why when it was 2-1, they dropped deeper back than they were hoping. They were obviously hoping, Brendan was hoping to take a 2-0 lead into that segment of the game. And there's still a lot of positive takes from it, though.
The thing with substitutions is, and we've seen this with any manager, is that you make a substitution and then you concede a goal. It's the worst substitution in the world. If he'd put Daka on, as he did, and let's say Daka had gone ahead and got a goal 5 minutes after coming on a breakaway, it would have been the absolutely fantastic, master tactician, and he got the substitute right. It is thin lines for managers, isn't it?
It certainly is, and how many times have we watched the game and talked, like the sun shines out of their arses about how the goals are fantastic, the clean sheet or the this and that was great. But we've watched a game where they've only had 3 chances and it's brilliant. But we've watched them 3 chances hit the post, get tipped around for a corner and a free kick that just shaves the top of the bar. And you're thinking, yeah, and if one of them had hit back the net, imagine what it would have done. And it's a cruel mistress of football, as it is sometimes. Not all your plans are going to go to fruition.
Exactly. Right, let us carry on.
New level this season. How do you think Mikel Arteta has been able to achieve that?
He's brought in players that simply has allowed him to do that. I think Mikel will have had a way of which he's wanted to work. He'll have wanted a number 9 that's aggressive, that can threaten the goal, has the confidence, can run in behind, can take the game short. You don't need to convince him to work. He's a natural worker. Gabriel Jesus can play in a couple of positions. So I just think that mentality, him alone, will have helped the squad. Zinchenko coming in understands exactly the role that Mikel will want him to play, where he can play and drift on the inside, can make passes and open up the spaces on the outside for the wingers. And then, like I say, the freshness of a young centre-half coming into the team and hungry to prove himself. So that, along with the work that they've been doing over a few years, bringing in those talents can make a big difference to the squad.
They were the subject of a behind-the-scenes documentary last season. Have you had a chance to watch it? Is that something that you would encourage here?
No, I've never watched it. No.
Okay. Not something you would have here then? Cameras following everything?
Definitely not. If I could had any control over that, definitely not.
You mentioned earlier to Paul about...
I think he's referring to the all or nothing, isn't he? Which is probably nothing for Arsenal. Would you want to see that, just very quickly, would you want to see that at our club?
Not really. I think most clubs in general have got enough out there on the social medias, on the Facebooks, on the Twitter pages, on the YouTube channels, on their Instagrams, on the TikToks. The players do enough of it as it is. The club have 4, 5, 6 social media outlets to source to. I'm not really bothered, really. I just watch the odd training sessions to see exactly on the way Leicester work on their thing and what they're working on in training. I'll watch post-match interviews and stuff like this that we're discussing and reacting to today. But no, I don't really care. I don't want to see that. It's not my
I agree with you totally. Scott says, do you think Brendan was trying to make a statement to the board that the players he had on the bench may not be able to change the game? And that what can be done, because we're still back to the same position that we can't sign anybody until we shift some players out. So whatever we say about was this the reason, was that the reason, the bottom line is we we have only got those 25 places, and we have got more than 25. Well, we've got just 25 players now, unless obviously the signing of the goalkeeper is correct.
Departures, Hamza Chowdhury, obviously Academy Products, has gone to Watford. What would you like to say about him and obviously the transfer and what that does to you guys?
Yeah, well, Hamza, he's gone to a fantastic club with a good manager who's just gone in, and I'm sure he'll do really well. Hamza, in my time here, he's been a really valuable member of our squad. But for him to progress and make the next progression, he needs to play more. And this year, with 1 game a week, it was going to be limited, his time. So, as I said, he had a brilliant attitude every single day in training. Hamza was first class. He was always there for the team, but he needed to play games, and he's got the opportunity now to go to Watford. Like I said, really good manager who's gone in and want to put his mark in the club and the team, and great supporters that will support Hamza whilst he's there. So yes, I think it's a really good move for both.
Watford fans very happy with the signing. I got a little bit confused about this on the news show the other day because I just don't know what was happening with Hamza Chowdhury. He had that Liverpool game when he was man of the match, or when he was playing out of position in defence, and Rodgers came out and praised him, and then we never saw him for the rest of the game. Now, a lot of people are saying, yeah, he's the manager, he had a good game, he's right to praise him. But he wasn't just praising him, he was blowing smoke out of his arse. There was pictures of him, pointing to him on the camera from behind with 2 hands and, really going over the top. And then you don't use him for the rest of the season. But in fairness, as much as he has, grown over the years, he's got that kind of red card out of him. He probably, if we're honest, is still third choice behind Ndidi and Mendy.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say. I think if anybody did one of these in the head or did a show about who Leicester should sell, keep, and whatnot, I think Chowdhury was definitely on the list of probably loan out for that reason. Very interesting point was made there that playing once a week became a big decision. So that makes it even stranger, or that either tells me that had Leicester snuck in the back door and made European contest and would be regularly, without international interruption, be playing midweek and obviously Saturday or Sunday, depending on their midweek. So with that in mind, maybe that's all in convolution as to why all of a sudden Pratt's happy to stay, because he was told his situation of what it'd be like and how he's going to have to work hard and wait, patient. Again, that word patient.
Yeah.
He's not just behind in that position, but he's behind the pecking order across the midfield, because you'd assume that means that Samore, Pratt are going to be their midfield go-to options. And you want to have a Chowdhury there for when that notch in the list is allowed to go up, and you can not have a Telemans and someone starting, so you need it. And if he's playing week in, week out in a competitive championship division, he's only going to improve. So I'm probably more happy than that than I am losing somebody on a cheap just to get them off the wage bill. At least I feel that Hamza's still got a chance here at Leicester to maybe do a Harvey Barnes.
He signed an extension to his contract by a year because he's only got a year out of it. But that does allow Watford to have the option to buy at the end of the season. So if he has a good season, Watford will keep him. If he has a bad season, we'll get him back and we'll probably have to loan him out again. But time will tell. Time will tell. But I think he was one of the, like you say, the obvious ones that you would put in the departure lounge, as they say. Yeah. B. Crom says, I don't care what manager is here, as long as we run 2 strikers up top. We have the best pure holding midfield in the world in Ndidi. We need to take advantage of that. Thing is, how many managers are actually playing 2 up front? I don't think. I mean, Sean Dyche used to. You can argue it didn't work out for them at Burnley. I don't think there's many play 2 up front now, is there, Brad?
No, there's not. In fact, when Brendan actually did go to up front with Iheanacho and Vardy, we were probably one of the few clubs that were still doing it. So, especially in the Premier League, I can't think of a team that was running with 2 up front. It's normally it's either a narrow front 3, which you could push to do it, but Leicester don't have them options, Barnes being injured, to make it a narrow front 3.
Yeah.
You may see. There's no reason why you couldn't. I know we saw it with Musa and it didn't work, but there's no reason doing it with someone else that couldn't do it, Daka and Barnes on that left. But again, that's time will tell. Certain arts of football are always going to die out and then come back into trend. And that's just not a tactic at the moment that a lot of
No. So if you replace the manager, like you say, you're probably going to get the same, know, 1 up front and false 9. Right, let's see what else.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, Owen.
Hi, Brendan. I just wondered if I could ask about Harvey Barnes and whether there was a timescale yet on his knee injury. I know you said it was going to be a few weeks last week, but is there a specific timescale you've got in mind now?
Nothing specific. Oh no, he's been with the medical team. Still has an irritation around the knee, so I don't have an exact time on that.
Okay. Since we spoke last week, I know you've said you have talked to Wesley and about what the club feel about him, but from a personal level, have you been able to have a chat with him about why you think it would be best for him to stay at Leicester City this summer rather than looking at moves elsewhere?
Yeah, I think it's another year here certainly for him at least would be really important for his development. But Wesley's quite calm and relaxed in the situation. He's aware of the interest. He understands where we are as a club and where we see him. And he's just getting on with his work and training well. And like I said, whenever there's any communication, we're able to have a conversation.
You said that there had been a bid for Wesley, but was nowhere near the valuation. Has there been any fresh offers that had come in for him?
Not that I'm aware of. There was 2, but again, nowhere near what I think the club would even think about. I think that the point to reiterate is that we're not looking to sell Wesley. That's the key point. He's not a player that is actively looking to move on. But naturally, if there's an interest from other clubs, then of course, that is looked at by the club. But he's a top young defender, which there's not too many about at his age. So he's someone that we want to and would love to keep here, but we have to wait and see.
Okay, so Harvey Barnes is no date on his coming back, so there's no real news there. Wesley Fofana, and he was kind of saying, well, come back to us in a year, Chelsea, wasn't he? But the signs are looking that Wesley is going to be here this season, is going to be staying. Like he said, every player has his price there. But you've got to meet our valuation. It was the same with Man United and Maguire. And Chelsea don't keep pressing and coming in with these silly little offers. Come in with the price we want, which is around 85 million, and we'll talk.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Leicester actually have a higher valuation on that one. Oh, excuse me. And that just purely being because... excuse me again. They don't, there's not a one-to-way in Wesley Fofana. It's been reiterated by the player. We hear it reiterated by the manager. And I think the fact that there's not that one-to-way, that maybe next year or the year after, Chelsea could still get him for 80, 85 million sort of figures. But if you're wanting to prime away from a player that's happy to be here, got 5 years on his contract, and the club aren't at all interested in selling, you're probably looking at Chelsea are going to get told, if they ever cave and blink first and say, right, what's it going to cost? We're going to see something astronomical, and that's why I'm so confident of him being a Leicester player because I think it would take something in the region of 120 million to prime him away from Leicester, given the situation.
Yeah. Rich is in. Good evening, Rich. How the devil are you? Check out Rich Sports on YouTube. A lot of Man United content, but which is very interesting at the moment, to be honest with you. And there's a lot to talk about, I guess, Rich. And make sure you get over there and check him out. And thank you, Rich. Like he says there, hit the share and subscribe. Appreciate that, Rich. Thank you very much. Scott says our 100 million plus for Fofana. The papers are saying 85, which would be a world record for a defender. I'm thinking possibly 100. I think the thing we've got to say is that at this point, they're not going to meet that, Chelsea. We're almost certainly not going to meet that. And Wesley isn't doing a Riyadh. He's not throwing his toys out the pram. He's not going on strike. He's not having a nervous breakdown. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not making light of, depression or anything like that. I've got it myself. But, you can't play because you couldn't get a move. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that worked or not. Honestly, camping out at Paris, airport, waiting for his agent to ring him and tell him which plane to get on. I'm sorry. So Fofana's not doing that. So I think yes, we will have him. We will have him for a while yet.
You said you would have an answer for us on the vice captain at the football club after Johnny Evans moved into that captain's role. Is that something that's been discussed, and is there a decision there?
Yeah, we've discussed that. So it's still in a process. So hopefully we'll have that for you in due course.
Okay.
Rumours KDH burn off Johnny Evans.
Wouldn't be a bad master to give to give the apprentice to, would it? I mean, a lot of people already hyped the early career starting of KDH. The thing is, you need to know if he wants it. You need to know if he wants to be a captain as well. Everybody can have hunger for the game, and he clearly has hunger for this club and the game, and he's loved here. If it's a step for us, absolutely make it vice captain. Johnny Evans has probably got a season or two around the camp left in him, whether it's just like even if that falls into a Wes Morgan style role, you can still learn off him being at the club, and it's a thing. But you've got to remember, he needs to make that decision. He might not want the captaincy. That might be a thing he's never desired. And you can have that in players. You can love a club and want to work for them, but you may never decide to be a captain or have the fundamentals to be one.
Yeah.
On paper, and the way he plays, obviously, yes, it's great. Time will tell. If he takes a role, brilliant. I look forward to having him as a captain one day, hopefully.
Now, I'm going to do a Brad. Now you're worried, aren't you? I'm going to do a Brad, and I'm going to quote cricket, because I look at cricket, and I'm not a huge follower of cricket, and I've got to be honest with you, I don't understand all the rules or what these things meant, and obviously I know what LBW and that is. I know the basics, and if it's like a one dayer or one of these 50 overs games, I love it. It tends to be, unless it's the Ashes, I can't get into these long games at all. But one thing I have noticed with England is making a player the captain can be the death of them as a player. And I go all the way back to Ian Botham, how he sort of was best thing since sliced bread, but not captain material. When he was made captain, it took him, Is it Joe Root that it's just happened to as well?
Yeah, but I think Joe Root's been met with a lot of harshness, because when he was captain, he got off to a great start. Australia were on the down on the rebuild that England have been doing for a while now, and he kind of got the butt end and the latter end of his captaincy, but it wasn't all bad under Joe Root. It was certainly no disaster like
no,
Kevin
but
Peterson.
You know what I mean? It kind of took his edge off, didn't? Without getting into sort of too much detail.
And again, we could be looking at this in a couple of seasons' time and talking about Brendan Rodgers and how did his career go? Was it success because he won the Community Shield, the FA Cup, and got to a few semi-finals, or will we be talking about his last few seasons because they were disasters? It's all how you're remembered. That
it is, but like I'm just saying, sometimes the weight of responsibility, you know, if we are in a semi-final of an FA Cup and, you know, we're 1-1 and we're into the last 10 minutes and Johnny Evans gets injured and is taken off and suddenly Kieran Dewsbury-Hall is captain, is that weight on his shoulders suddenly going to sort of weigh so heavily that it affects his game? That's my worry. And I think also as well, if Tielemans stops another season, I think he will be vice-captain for one season, which would give Kieran the chance to bed in a little bit more and maybe take it on in a season's time.
I mean, we'll probably find that gets locked in 100% come September. I think you're right in the fact that it could all depend on Tielemans. But, you know, we talk about different levels of captaincy, and you also have different styles of captaincy. Talks about goalkeepers captains, centre-backs captains, you know, the vision they get at the level they play on it, you know, midfielders as captains. The thing is with a vice captain, more in other sports than that, it's very unlikely that they have to step in. For one test in cricket terms, or 1 or 2 games in football, you can get away with it because you pretty much probably find that is something that you sit down and talk about as a captain. What do you do? How do you do it? How do you manage it? You talk about it. You want to learn about how to be a captain. You get taught how to be a captain. And even if it's in the off season and the pre-season, and let's say Johnny Evans gets injured by September and Kieran Dewsbury is the vice captain, he will read the playbook as the Americans know it. He'll read the playbook, he'll read what he's been taught, and he'll, even if he has to come off the bench or he takes over whilst on field, he'll know as well as them other players know, you know, how we go about handling our business in this situation. I will do that. When the gaffer tells me to change it up to something else, I'll do that. And I think that's what the vice captain role leads to.
Yeah. Speedcom makes a very good point, and remind me at the end, I want to come back to that, but I do want to get through the press conference first. But he makes a point I made the other day, but let's just watch the end of the conference.
Is that something that you discuss with the players, and is it like a group process, or is it just with the management?
With the players, with the staff as well. So I think what was key and important for us was to get a new leader of the team. That was most important. We have some fantastic senior professionals around, anyway, like Mark Albright and Jamie and those types of players. They're very important players for me here. So they fill that there, but certainly within the coming days we'll have that all organised.
Okay. And you said to us that you were supposed to be having a new set piece coach joining the club. I think it was 3 weeks ago, a couple of Mondays ago, so about 5 weeks ago now. But it was visa problems that were causing that. Has he been able to arrive at the club now, or is that still something being sorted?
Yeah, it's we've been given confirmation that the appeal to the FA was successful, so that's really good news, and now we have to wait for the documentation, which hopefully will be at some point next week. So once that is clarified, then we'll let you know.
Are you able to tell us who that is?
Not at this moment in time. Once it's confirmed, then of course we will.
Okay.
Any clues, Brad, who that might be? Oh, Brad has had to go off to water the plant. So the interesting
somebody that knows how to.
I'm sorry. What did you say, mate? No, I think he's gone. He's gone off for. Like I say, to water the plant. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to find out who that will be. To be honest with you, but we will find out in due course. Of course, let's see what else Brendan had to say. And
final one from me, Brendan. But your squad numbers were announced last week, but there wasn't a squad number for Callum Wright, George Hurst, Lewis Brunt, Dana Watson, Chittawan, and Josh Apaya. And they all count in the 25 Premier League squad rules as they're over the age of 21. I was wondering, are you looking at including any of those players in your 25-man squad, or are those players who, I mean, I know Callum Wright has had a couple of loan spells away. Are they players that could be looking at loan spells and won't be included in the squad this year?
Yeah, there's a possibility of that. I've spoken to some of those players, so they know where the situation is at, and for some of them, it'll be about getting experience again outside of here, and for others, like I say, we have to assess that.
There we go then. So those players not going to be included. That's all right. I hope you enjoyed it. It was just going on about some like the Callum Wrights and the George Hursts, or being over 21 but not being given a squad number, so they're not in the squad. And he was talking about probably they're going out on loan, which is probably the best thing for them, to be honest with you. I wanted to sort of end on this because I say we've looked at the thing. He made some interesting points, did Brendan. I wish they'd do a thing where the people that are asking the questions can actually have a microphone so we can hear it a little bit more. Now, B. Crom said, I want to be positive and suggest we should try and trade for Mings. He is a true Leicester City style defender and Gerrard doesn't like his style. Maguire and Mings are perfect for us. I asked this question in the show the other night. We sold Harry Maguire for £80+ million. When he left us, he was a very, very good player. It was in the England squad. He was scoring for England. What player? And somebody said Messi would go to Manchester United now and look second rate the way that they are going. If Man United came back and said, and it's not going to happen, obviously, I know, but if they came back and said, 20 million, would you take him back? And if you had Top's checkbook, what would you say?
No, I'm good, thanks. And I am. You look at the depth we've got around, and I just don't see the improvement by bringing him in. I just don't see. I mean, unless we're gonna hypnotise them into doing a Paul Pogba with him, and then in 2 years' time they buy him back up for sort of like another, 80 million or something. I don't see the point.
My thoughts down the line is obviously we made a huge profit on him. We know there's a good player in there because we had the good player. But I'm just thinking, if we are going to be losing Wes in a year's time, Amate, we saw his shortcomings at the weekend, although he was out of position. Does he offer that coming back to us, like I say, as a £20 million? It's not going to happen, but like I say, I probably would take him back for that, I
mean, if them circumstances met, then the opening's there, isn't there? Because we'll be down a few numbers in that department. But I don't know. I mean, the thing
let me
is...
ask you the other one then. Mings. He's lost the captaincy. He's fallen out with Gerrard, obviously, and we do like that experience when Evans is injured. And let's be honest with you, with his age, he could not necessarily get any more injuries than he normally does, but it's just going to take him longer to recover and come back. We don't want to get into a position where we're bringing players back too early again. Soyuncu could be going. We don't know. Again, is that a player? If we have the money, obviously we're not. We're just talking, hypothetically here. Is he the sort of experienced player we could do with?
No, not really. I mean, there's a reason his career hasn't excelled in the way he was probably hoping to, and unless he's going to admit that he's an Alex Smith and gladly come in to be third choice centre back or fourth choice centre back, then I just don't see it as a viable option. I think Leicester will keep their tight, close to bursting numbers to what it is. So they're not going to go out unless it's chronically necessary for them to go out and go into the market anyway.
Yeah.
But you'd have to lose someone for me. And I think if he's causing trouble at Villa for the situation he's in and not playing or whatever his reason is for falling out with Gerrard is, if we make a like for like for Soyuncu and Mings, are we not just replacing one problem with another? And we'll have a player
Oh yeah,
But
I'm
more
not saying do a swap. I'm just saying if we sold Soyuncu, would Mings be an option? And like I say, it's completely hypothetical because we know it's not going to happen. Brad, thank you so much. It was very last minute when I got you on, so I really, really do appreciate it. Your link is in the description below. Just give a shout out where people can find you and what you do.
Yeah, so I do run a YouTube show called A Matter of Opinion. You can find that on the link in my Twitter bio, my Twitter handle.
He's frozen. No, you had frozen. I think you're back.
Yeah, it's because my end, it doesn't show me frozen. Sorry. Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at A Matter of Opinion, where we do several topics on our weekly that we discuss. This week we did Disney theories. You find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is @fulltimefocus. And yeah, that's all in the description down below. So cheers for having me on, Chris. And as always, everybody subscribe here first.
Thank you very much. And as always, thank you for coming on. I apologise it was short notice. I hadn't planned to do this, but yeah. You know what I'm like. Last minute Chris, they call me. Right. Well, was that just the wife? I can't remember. But anyway, thanks very much, mate. I will speak to you soon. Take care.
Take care, mate.
Cheers. Thanks very much to Brad. It was very much last minute when I asked him on. C96, welcome along. Both Mings and Maguire would be an upgrade on a Marty and Vestergaard. Well, you know, this is what we're saying. Would we go for them if we could? And it's the big if, of course. That's the thing. You're welcome along. I haven't seen you before, C96. So if you are new to the channel, not just yourself, anybody that's watching, if you are new, then just do one thing for me.
Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favourite podcast platform. Or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Indeed. Please do that. I'm going to be back at 10 o'clock and we will be talking Arsenal with Miss Melina, who is an Arsenal fan, and also talking with Craig. 10 o'clock, a little bit different time because of personal things that are going on with some of the presenters. So it happens. Family and work always come first. Never, ever this. But they will be back at 10 o'clock talking all things Arsenal and Tielemans, I am sure. Thank you very much. If you have been watching this, press that subscribe button, smash the likes. And if you've been listening to this on your favourite podcast platform, we're on all the main ones and a lot of the little ones as well. Leicester Till I Die. Ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die and they'll pick it up on there. I will see you at 10 o'clock. Thank you very much. Take care. Stay safe. Hey, don't do anything I won't enjoy. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too or I'll be back.
Cool. I'm out of here. Ooh, that's a wrap.
Some people are on the pitch. They think it's